Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here are some of today's top stories. More cross-examination today during former President Trump's New York trial. He called the case a disgrace. Officers cleared a pro-Palestinian encampment at UC Irvine, resulting in several protesters arrested. A bill to allow illegal immigrant students to work on college campuses is moving through the California legislature. More details coming up. First up, former President Trump's ex-lawyer Michael Cohen was back on the witness stand today for more cross-examination. This is what Trump had to say after the court hearing today.
Everybody saw what happened today. He's a corrupt judge and he's totally conflicted. And I got to get back on the campaign trail. I'm not supposed to be here. We are so innocent. There's never been anything like it. Read every single analyst, legal analyst. I'm innocent, and I'm being held in this court with a corrupt judge who's totally conflicted. Take a look at his conflict. It's a disgrace to the city of New York, to the state of New York, and to the country.
Trump's defense attorney Todd Blanche led the charge on cross-examining the prosecution's star witness, former Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen. The defense has tried to cast Cohen as untruthful and biased against his former boss for revenge. Blanche repeatedly questioned Cohen about the lies he's made under oath, including to a federal judge. Cohen had previously pleaded guilty to tax fraud charges and how he lied in court in the process. Cohen is the final witness for the prosecution, meaning Trump's team will be free to call their own witnesses from now on. Today, more of Trump's allies are in court to support him, including Congress members Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Bob Good.
This judge whose own family is making six figures off of Democrat politics that continues to gaslight the country that there's some sort of crime committed by President Trump.
Today, Congressman Andy Agos introduced the bill dubbed the Let Trump Speak Act, aimed to prohibit judges from issuing gag orders to defendants like Trump in any criminal or civil proceeding. Meanwhile, Trump is asking New York Supreme Court to intervene in his fight over the gag order in the trial after the appeals court upheld Judge Merchan's decision on Tuesday. Trump is also appealing the $83 million judgment against him in the E. Jean Carroll's defamation case. Vice President Kamala Harris has agreed to participate in a vice presidential debate this summer, setting the stage for a showdown between Harris and whoever is selected as the Republican VP nominee. This is after both President Biden and former President Trump have accepted invitations to two debates starting in late June. The vice presidential debate will take place in studio on either July 23rd or August 13th. CBS News says the Trump campaign has not accepted the invitation as Trump hasn't named a running mate. But in an interview released today, Trump has said there is a good chance he will announce his VP selection at the Republican National Convention in July. The Dow Jones Industry Average broke past the 40,000 threshold briefly this morning for the first time ever, fueled by an encouraging inflation report. The latest consumer price index showed a cool down for the first time in months, stoking hopes that the Federal Reserve could start cutting interest rates as soon as September. Another contributing factor to the inflation slowdown is the April retail sales numbers that came in slightly weaker than expected. This indicates that consumers are pulling back on the spending that drives the economy. Spending missed the 0.4% increase that economists had projected. Despite the slightly cooled inflation, cumulative inflation under President Biden hit 20%, the highest of any president for the last 40 years. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also confirmed that inflation is growing faster than average wages. Combined with weak GDP growth, this data shows the U.S. economy is re-entering stagflation. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in China meeting with the Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. Putin and Xi in Beijing today pledged to deepen their strategic partnership as Russian troops advanced in Ukraine. Beijing continues to supply Moscow with high-tech components for weapon production to bypass Western sanctions. It also buys the bulk of sanctioned Russian oil. Russia and China military ties have also tightened, Joint war games have also been held involving troops, naval drills, and long-range bomber patrols. This is Putin and Xi's fourth face-to-face meeting since Russia launched the invasion of Ukraine. Xi declared what he called a no-limits partnership with Putin just weeks before the war started over 2 years ago. Former intelligence officer retired Colonel Grant Newsham told NTD the wars in Ukraine and Gaza distract the U.S. from any serious attention to China. Here's Newsham on the Xi-Putin relationship.
The more the fighting goes on in Ukraine, the more the Americans have to focus on that, and things are getting pretty dicey there. You're emptying out American arsenals. The same thing goes with Gaza. It's a huge political issue in the United States. It's caused chaos in parts of the U.S., certainly on some college campuses. It has handcuffed U.S. political movement. The administration clearly is trying to thread a needle unsuccessfully and play both sides of this.
Tensions at UC Irvine escalated when several hundred pro-Palestinian protesters entered the lecture hall and surrounded the building, leading to several arrests. NTD's Christina Corona provides the latest update on the story.
Several hundred pro-Palestinian protesters entered the UC Irvine campus and surrounded the Physical Sciences Lecture Hall on Wednesday around 2:30 p.m. The university requested mutual aid from about 10 local law enforcement agencies, receiving on-site assistance as more protesters joined the existing encampment on campus. Police in riot gear began removing the protesters from both the lecture hall and the plaza around 4 p.m. Authorities then moved in to dismantle the encampment, leading to several scuffles breaking out. Police made 50 arrests, mostly for failure to disperse and with many for trespassing. Those arrested were booked and released with a citation. Irvine Mayor Farah Khan, a Democrat, posted on X, "It's a shame that peaceful free speech protests are always responded to with violence. Taking space on campus or in a building is not a threat to anyone." In a statement on Wednesday evening, UCI Chancellor Howard Gilman addressed protesters, expressing disappointment at their actions which violated school policies. He had been willing to allow a peaceful encampment without police intervention, but their actions altered the situation, assaulting students' rights and the university's mission. The latest campus-specific and system-wide demands made by our encampers and their counterparts across the University of California attempted to dictate that anyone who disagreed with them must conform to their opinions. They asserted the right to oversee many elements of university operations involving the administration, faculty, students, and staff, bypassing customary campus protocols and ignoring the function of the academic senate. The university announced that all classes would be held remotely on Thursday and advised employees to not come to campus. The arrests came shortly after the union, representing around 48,000 University of California graduate students and other academic workers, voted to approve a strike. They were protesting against college actions in response to pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campuses, citing concerns about free speech and student safety. In a recent development, Sonoma State University President Mike Lee has been put on leave for agreeing to meet anti-Israel protesters' demands without proper approval. In an official email, he promised to form a Students for Justice in Palestine Advisory Council, boycott Israeli universities, expand Palestinian studies programs, and demand a ceasefire in Gaza. California State University Chancellor Mildred Garcia stated that she's collaborating with the university board to review the matter and that further details will be provided by leadership soon. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
Speaking of colleges, California lawmakers are trying to pass a bill that would allow illegal immigrant students to work on college campuses. Take a look.
College campuses are not allowed to hire illegal immigrant students for work, but an assembly member is proposing to change that. Earlier this year, Assemblymember David Alvarez from Chula Vista proposed Assembly Bill 2586. It would prohibit the University of California, California State University, or California community colleges from turning down a student who fails to provide proof of federal work authorization. Current federal law prohibits employers from hiring anyone who is not a U.S. citizen or does not have proof of work authorization. During an Assembly Standing Committee meeting on higher education in April, Alvarez said his proposed bill is a reflection of his experience as a son of illegal immigrant parents.
Thousands of students have placed their trust in California's promise to receive a better education to help them succeed, and we have responded in kind with the programs to help them succeed. However, there is one group of students, undocumented students, who are unable to apply for jobs and other paid opportunities that are available to everybody else in their peer group, which significantly impacts their ability, those undocumented students' ability, to make payments towards their cost of education, which includes housing and other basic needs.
8 voted in favor of the bill, 2, both Republicans, voted against it, and 1 chose not to vote. Another Assembly member, Sabrina Cervantes, introduced a similar bill called ACA 20 in February. Both bills are part of a list of bills that the California Latino Legislative Caucus would prioritize to benefit the Latino community.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. A recall date is set for a district attorney in Northern California. Locals say she is too soft on crime. California cyclists pledge to walk 30,000 miles on their bicycles. They say it's part of an annual bike appreciation event. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. A recall vote date is set for a district attorney in California who serves Alameda County, which includes the city of Oakland. 2 weeks ago, the Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to approve the collected signatures needed for the recall. And on Tuesday, an election date was set. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
The recall election of Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price has been scheduled for November 5th. Recall supporters were hoping for an earlier date. They wanted a special election which would consist of a single question vote on whether to recall the district attorney or not. But opponents were pushing to add it to the general election ballot in November, perceiving it as favorable due to a likely higher voter turnout. Ultimately, the board decided to hold it during the general election in November. The 2 main reasons were turnaround time and cost. The board didn't think they could put together a special election in time for August or September, and the cost would be high at an estimate of around $20 million, when in comparison, adding it to the ballot in November would only cost about $4 million. Recall supporters say District Attorney Price is too soft on crime and not charging suspects properly.
Lives are at stake with this recall of Pamela Price.
Recall opponents said that they are happy with the board's decision. Prosecutors Alliance Action issued a statement on Tuesday saying, quote, "We are glad that today the Board of Supervisors decided to do the right thing and save taxpayers millions by putting the recall election on the November ballot. This will ensure that the most voters possible will have their voice heard in this important decision about the future of public safety in the county." Jason Blair, NTD News.
A federal women's prison in California has closed down following reports of rampant sexual abuse of inmates by guards. All 605 inmates at the facility have been moved out. Helen Billings has more on the story.
The Women's Federal Correctional Institution, FCI Dublin in California, has closed down in the wake of a sexual abuse scandal. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, BOP, as of May 1st, all inmates were either transferred to other prisons, released, or transferred to community placement, according to a spokesperson for the Bureau. Fox KTVU News reported that some inmates were transferred to a facility in Victorville, California, while most inmates were transferred out of state. This started with a 2021 investigation by the Associated Press that exposed what they called a rape club going back years at FCI Dublin. This led to charges against 8 staff members, with 7 of them being convicted and sentenced for sexual abuse, including the former warden and prison chaplain. The announcement to close came shortly after the U.S. District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers ordered the rare appointment of a special master to oversee the federal prison in March, declaring it a dysfunctional mess. Last month, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee expressed concern in a letter to the BOP about reports of inmates being subjected to mistreatment, harassment, neglect, and lack of medical care while being transferred. Judge Gonzalez-Rogers criticized BOP's plan for closing FCI Dublin, saying it was ill-conceived and during the transfer, BOP had ignored operational issues. In contrast, BOP said it took steps to fix the problems at FCI Dublin, but the best course of action was to close the facility. Judge Rogers ordered BOP to provide a weekly update of the transferred inmates, monthly staff reports for each prison in the transfer, and reports on medical and mental care provided. In Dublin, California, Helen Billings, NTD News.
Amid the potential rise of gas prices on the West Coast, bikers are celebrating the 30-year anniversary of Bay Area Bike to Work Day. They pledged to log 30,000 miles on their bicycles. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Mike Murtaugh is one of many bike enthusiasts riding to work today. He says there's health benefits and sometimes...
Some people maybe not, but for me it could. Depending on the time of the year, I can pass by the traffic and get to work faster on my bicycle and burn no gas.
I gave up a car when I moved to California about 10 years ago, and it's really been a great boon to my bottom line because gas is crazy expensive. And if you have an electric vehicle, that's also expensive.
Amid gas prices potentially rising on the West Coast, that's from Nevada and Arizona fearing companies may reduce supplies. With Murtaugh, he says he bikes to work regularly and shares one car with his wife, keeping a schedule on who gets to use it.
But that effort really pays off. I don't have, a big insurance bill, maintenance bill, and gas bill for a second car. It's incredible. It's a lot of money.
May is a special month. Some events include National Bike Month, Bike to Wherever Day, and...
To me, it's the best day of the year because I get out from behind my computer, I get to meet my fellow bike riders and talk about what the Bike Coalition does. A lot of the roadways are designed for cars, so they're really just not safe for bike riders, which is where the Bike Coalition works with local folks to advocate for new infrastructure projects to make it safer. We want it to be a popular alternative, but it has to be safe for folks.
Cyclists have pledged to rack up 30,000 bike miles.
Bike to Work Day has been going on for 30 years. We reached our 30,000 miles by, I think, May 10th this year, Bay Area wide.
That's my lunch right there.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Energizer stations are set up on Thursday to encourage folks to hop on their bike. They can freshen up with merch, water, and snacks.
Got a Gatorade and a oatmeal raisin bar. So I'm pretty well stocked up here after 4 Energizer stations.
That's good. You can keep going.
Yeah, I can.
And enthusiasts could look forward to a new project.
Central Bikeway is a 10-mile concept of a bike superhighway that travels from Santa Clara all the way east to the Berryessa BART station. It's going to be entirely on street, but physically protected from cars.
The design process is expected to kick off next year. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Now transitioning over to the world of women's basketball, the Golden State WNBA expansion team has just unveiled their new name and brand identity. NTD's Carlos Reyes has all the details.
In an announcement on Tuesday, the Golden State WNBA expansion team unveiled its name and brand identity, the Golden State Valkyries. Drawing inspiration from Norse mythology, the name Valkyries embodies a group of fearless warrior women, fitting for a team aiming to make a bold statement in the league. The Valkyries will don Valkyrie Violet as their primary color, symbolizing power, ambition, nobility, and women's empowerment. The vibrant purple hue reflects the team's strong, bold, and fierce identity. Starting in the 2025 WNBA season, the Valkyries will be the league's 13th active team and its first expansion franchise since 2008. They will play home games at San Francisco's Chase Center and practice in Oakland at the former Golden State Warriors practice facility, showcasing their strong connection to the storied NBA franchise. Jess Smith, the Valkyries president, expressed her excitement, noting that the announcement marks a significant milestone in building the team's brand and community. The team's logo, featuring the Bay Bridge shaped as a V, symbolizes the unity and strength of the Valkyries. The design incorporates elements like the bridge tower, a sword, and the cables as wings, representing the warrior spirit. Additionally, the 13 lines emerging from the tower signify the team's entry as the WNBA's 13th team. With over 7,500 season ticket deposits and the recent hiring of general manager Ohimani Anin, the Valkyries are already generating significant buzz. To celebrate their new identity, the team will host a Valkyries block party at Thrive City in San Francisco this Saturday. Carlos Reyes, NTD News.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. More anti-Israel demonstrations at a California university. But is the Chinese Communist Party lurking in the shadows? More on China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.